Don't forget to like and subscribe to Jolie Knots Crochet. Share with your friends. Hit that little notification bell so you can get notified when new patterns release. All our videos are available in left and right-handed tutorials. Hi everyone, welcome back to Jolie Knots Crochet. I'm Crystal, and today we are going to be making these favorite toasty textured beanies. Now this pattern is super simple. It is a 1-row repeat, and it's going to give us this really awesome, thick, warm texture. We are going to be working this pattern from the brim, first working around the brim and then up the body. Now I've got 3 different sizes here, and let me teach you and explain to you about your yarn and your gauge, because you're going to be able to use any yarn and any hook that you desire. So let's go ahead and start with this. This is the beanie that we're going to be doing the tutorial on today. Now the yarn that I used for this is Ice Yarns in Cakes Air. It's the Cakes Air is the line in the purple and pink shades. This is 150 grams, 180 meters, so just a little under 200 yards, 50% acrylic and 50% polyamide. Now it is a bulky 5-weight yarn. I would agree with that as far as it being a bulky 5-weight yarn. I'd put it a little bit on the thinner side, but we did use a 6mm hook for the brim, and then we went up to a 6.5mm hook for the top. So depending on the yarn you're using, you're going to choose the hook size that's recommended. You'll fit it on the circumference of your head for your brim. Now if you're making a child size, then of course your brim is going to be about maybe 2 inches tall. If you are making it for an adult size, you're going to go to about 2.5 inches, maybe even 3 inches on the larger side, depending on the style that you're going for. With this one, we did an almost 3-inch brim, but we did extra body, so it was a little bit more slouchy. On this one here, I did about 2.5 inches, and I made it to be fitted like a cap. But it is much more stretchy than the other hats. So the sizing I had to make sure was right. This one doesn't stretch a whole lot, and this one stretches a whole bunch. Now I made this one for my daughter, so this is a child size. This is actually an adult size, even though it kind of looks the same, but the stretch goes way farther, and I'm not stretching it out. That's just the way that it fits. Now moving on to the yarn that we used for this one. The way that I got the effect here was by using one mandala cake. The one I used is a mandala sparkle. This is 3.5 ounces, 328 yards, and it is a light 3-weight yarn. The recommended hook size for this one is 5mm, and I started double-stranded using a 5.5mm for the brim. So what I did was just dig right into the middle, pull out my center, grab the piece from the end, and I double-stranded and worked that way. And so you have that slow changing color, but that is still double-stranded and extra texture. Okay? This one is more of an extra large adult. I've got a lot of hair, so I need mine to be bigger, and I like the slouch in the back for me. Now moving on to the blue one, this one I made for my husband. He's bald, he has no hair, so it should not be too big or it's going to be too loose on him. He usually likes slouchy hats, but this one he wanted it to be more fitted like a cap. So I made it much shorter than I made mine that has a slouch by a couple of inches. Now the yarn that I used for this one is Ice Yarns Favorite Wool. Now this is categorized as a 5-weight yarn, but I completely disagree with that. I even think it's a little bit more on the lighter of a 4-weight yarn size. This skein comes in 210 meters, so maybe about 230 yards-ish around there. It's 50% wool and 50% acrylic, and it comes in a 100-gram skein. Now this color I think was the blue shades. Doesn't have a color on here, but that's about the color I had. I'll go ahead and leave the link below for you, but it is a really warm, toasty stitch, and this, since it's 50% wool, this fiber is really warm and toasty also. Okay, oh, and the size that I used for this was a 5mm for the brim and a 6mm for the body. So choose your yarn wisely, choose the hook size that you desire that's more of a recommended hook size for your brim, and then you're going to go up a hook size for the body. All right, now sizing our beanies, you are going to make your band in multiples of 2. So your rows all the way across are going to be in multiples of 2. Now this band I made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This band I made 20 inches long, and then we're going to fold it in half and slip stitch it together. But I told you I have a bigger head and a lot of hair, and then of course it stretches a couple of inches bigger than you make it. So this one would be an extra large size. You're just going to build your band to 20 inches if you're going for extra large. Now keep in mind, like I said, this also has a very tall brim. If you're making it for a child size, you're going to want to shorten your brim. This one with a 5.5mm hook, I went 10 stitches. And this one with a 5mm hook, not double-stranded, I also went 10 stitches, but you can see that there's a difference in the thickness of the brim. Now this one was with the bulky yarn and a 6mm hook, and I only went 6 stitches, and that's going to be for a child size. So you're going to need your yarn and your hook if you want to put a pom-pom on it, and a tapestry needle, and we will get started. Okay, so to get started and choose the size of the brim that I have, I'm using a larger hook size, a 6mm, and this one was a pretty wide brim with a 5.5mm. I'm going to be making this one for my daughter today, and it's going to be shorter, so I want it to be a little bit closer to 2 inches rather than the whole 3. So I'm going to chain 6 and check the size of my brim. And it looks like that's going to be 2 inches. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have 6 stitches. So now I'm going to chain 1 for height, and into each chain, well, the second chain from the hook and each chain following that, I'm going to put a single crochet. So I should have 6 single crochets going down the brim of my hat. Now I'm going to chain 1, turn my work, and single crochet into the back of every single crochet, just the back loop only. Now for row 3, we're going to chain 1, turn our work, and again, single crochet into the back loop of every single crochet. So in every row, I should be single crocheting into the back loop, and I should still have 6 stitches across. Now if you're making a larger size, then you'll probably have more than 6 stitches. Now keep repeating row 2 until you get to the head circumference of the size that you're making. Okay, I've just completed my band. I have made this band 17 inches wide. Now this one is not as stretchy as this one, so you're going to want to also make sure the stretch that yours has, because you don't want it to be too tight and you don't want it to be too loose. So now we're going to chain 1 and fold our work in half. And we're going to slip stitch these together in the same manner that we would be working, just across in the back loop only. So we're going to go through the first side, back loop only, and then we're going to find the first chain on the other side. And we're going to pull through all 3 loops. Now we're going to do the same thing into the back loop of the next stitch, through the next chain on the other side, and pull through all 3 stitches. Through the back loop, through the chain on the other side, and pull through all 3 loops. And continue that all the way down, ending out with 6 slip stitches. I have 6 because I have 6 stitches across. You should have the same amount of the stitches that you have across. Now we're going to fold our brim, flip it inside out really, because now we want that to be the inside of it. Okay, and I'm going to try to work over my tails here. So I'm going to chain 1. And this is not technically a row, this is our chain space. We're going to want an odd number of stitches going all the way around our brim. Now because I have an even number of rows, I'm going to need to increase 1 stitch. So I'm going to increase my 1 stitch here where the chain space is, and I'm going to put a half double crochet. Now I'm going to half double crochet into the side of every row, and when I get all the way around, I still want to make sure that I have an odd number of stitches. So go ahead and just put 1 half double crochet into the side of every row, and I will meet you back at the beginning, making sure you double check and make sure that you've got that odd number of stitches. Okay, here I am. I've gotten to my last stitch. And now what I'm going to do is switch my hook from my 6mm to my 6.5mm. The first stitch, we're going to be working in continuous rows here. You're not going to need any stitch markers. Our first stitch is going to be a front post double crochet around your first half double crochet. Okay, so straight from one to the next. Now we're going to put a double crochet on top of the next stitch. Now we're going to put a front post double crochet around the next. And that's it. That's all we're going to do. Switching back and forth, double crochet, front post double crochet. All the way down and around, and I'll meet you back where we started to show you how to continue. Okay, here I am all the way around. This is the first stitch that we worked into, and this is the last. Now we're not going to need to count our rows because we're just going to continue growing in continuous rounds until we get to the size that we want. If we want it slouchy, make it longer. If you want it more fitted, make it shorter. Our last stitch here should be a front post double crochet. Now your next stitch, it's already a front post double crochet from the previous row. So we should just be able to continue with our pattern, putting a double crochet into the top of our front post double crochet, and then front post double crocheting around our regular double crochet. And so now we're alternating. Double crochet into our front post, and then front post into our double crochet. Okay, and go around and around and around until you get to the height that you want from your brim. This one is a lot taller than this one. This one is slouchier and this one is more fitted. So this one is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 6 inches tall, and this one was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 7 inches tall. So I'm going to keep working my pattern around and around. You should have no seams, and I will meet you back here to show you how to close it up. Okay, so I have just completed mine. I did not mean to color pool that. It actually came out really cool though. And mine is about 6 inches tall for just the body. Now there's nothing we need to do special here because we're just gonna close it all up. So snip off a long end, pull your tail through, and let's go ahead and weave in our needle. All right, so I'm just gonna take my needle and I'm gonna find the top of each stitch. I'm just gonna go in and out of every single stitch all the way around so we can scrunch up our end. Just in and out of every stitch. Now if you want to put a pom-pom on yours, I will leave the link in the description box and also at the top of the screen for you to learn how to put a pom-pom on if you'd like to put a pom-pom on it. Okay, now I'm going to pull it all together, scrunch it all nice and tight, and from there, this is bulky yarn, so it's really, we're going to need to weave it in and out from one side to the next. Keep working our way across, back and forth, to help us close out that top. Just through one side, straight across to the next. Once you're confident you've secured it and you've got it as closed as you can go ahead and put your yarn through to the inside, and you can tie out your yarn into a knot from there, fasten off, snip your edges, put your pom-pom on if you like before you snip your edges, leave yourself a tail if you are putting a pom-pom on. Otherwise, go ahead and knot it several times so it doesn't come out. Snip off your end, and there we've got it. A nice, perfect child size fit. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. If you did happen to make this, don't forget to join us on the Jolie Knots Crochet community on Facebook and show us what you've created.